The Galactic Council chamber fell into an uneasy silence as the war veteran entered. Zarnak of the Draken Empire, his scales tarnished and worn from decades of conflict, stepped into the heart of the room. His broad, muscular frame cast a long shadow across the polished floor, his every movement radiating the weight of countless battles. His eyes, once filled with the fire of victory, now burned with something darker, fear perhaps, or a grim understanding of the horrors that lay ahead. He had seen it all, survived it all, and he had come to deliver a warning. He straightened to his full height, towering over the table where the members of the Galactic Council sat, their eyes fixed on him with a mix of curiosity and disdain. These were the beings that had shaped the galaxy for millennia, their empires spanning the stars. And yet, in his presence, they seemed small, like children playing at war. Zarnak, the lead counselor, said, his voice smooth and condescending. You fought many wars, survived countless battles. We've heard your stories, but we're not here for tales of old. What do you want? The room rippled with murmurs. Zarnak's reputation as a legendary war hero was known across the galaxy, but what he was about to say would shake their confidence to its core. His eyes narrowed, his voice low, but filled with conviction. I've seen the future of war, and it is coming from Earth. The counselors exchanged looks, their expressions dripping with skepticism. Zarnak could see it in their eyes, their belief that they were beyond any threat. They had conquered entire star systems, subdued powerful alien races, and lived through centuries of dominance. What could a primitive species like humanity possibly bring to the table? One of the younger counselors, a sleek, silver-skinned being from the Thalner Dominion, scoffed. Earth soldiers? A species barely out of the Stone Age compared to us? You must be joking. Zarnak's face remained impassive. You laugh. You will not when it's too late. Another counselor, a towering reptilian from the Scyther Confederacy, leaned forward, his gaze piercing. What are you saying, Zarnak? That the humans are a threat? You've been fighting for too long. Your mind is clouded by your past battles. Zarnak's gaze hardened. He had heard all this before. The smug dismissals, the arrogance of the galactic elite who thought they could never be touched. He had warned them before, during the last war, when the humans had first caught the Empire off guard. But this was something different. He had seen the potential in their soldiers, and it was terrifying. I fought them. I've faced their soldiers in battle. And I will tell you this, you cannot defeat them in the same way you defeated us, he said, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of truth. Their strength lies in their unpredictability. They do not fight by the rules we know. They adapt. They survive. And worst of all, they never stop. The council fell into a stunned silence, the only sound the faint hum of the chamber's energy fields. For a moment, Zarnak thought they might finally listen. But he knew better. They had never listened before, and they wouldn't now. The silver-skinned Thalner spoke again, his voice dripping with contempt. You're telling us that the humans, with their primitive weapons and tactics, can threaten the might of the Empire? Ridiculous. Their military strength is laughable. Zarnak's hand clenched at his side. He had seen it firsthand. How Earth soldiers, with nothing but their wits and their tenacity, had turned the tide of battle in ways the Empire's finest could never predict. It wasn't just their strength that made them dangerous. It was their will to fight, to win, no matter the cost. You will see, Zarnak said, his tone now cold and final. When Earth soldiers come, they will not stop until you are all destroyed. You may laugh now, but mark my words. Humanity will rise. And when they do, you will have no one but yourselves to blame. He turned on his heel, his heavy footsteps echoing in the silence. As he reached the door, he paused, one last word slipping from his lips, a warning to those who had refused to hear. You are already too late. And with that, Zarnak was gone, leaving the council to their disbelief, their arrogance, and their inevitable downfall. The first human fleet entered the system like a shadow, silent and ominous, its warships sleek and deadly in their precision. For weeks, the Empire's sensors had detected no unusual activity, no sign of life from the nearby human colony. And yet, there they were, out of nowhere, appearing like ghosts in the vastness of space. The Draken Empire's automated defenses hummed to life as they noticed the unfamiliar ships. Their commanders, confident in their superiority, expected the same primitive tactics humans had always relied on. Simple, predictable, this would be no different. The fleet would be intercepted, obliterated, and the humans would return to their place in the galaxy's pecking order. But they were wrong. The first wave of human warships emerged from the void in perfect formation, each vessel a masterpiece of design and lethal intent. Captain Sarah Stone led them. She had been born for this, a soldier who thrived on strategy, who lived for the chaos of battle. Her face was emotionless, her eyes hard as she surveyed the Empire's defenses through her command console. "Prepare to engage," she ordered in a voice that was as cold as the steel surrounding her. There was no hesitation, no second-guessing. The mission was clear: eliminate the Draken threat and show the galaxy what humanity's military was truly capable of. The Draken Empire ships, larger and more advanced, fired first. Their weapons pulsed with energy, lighting up the void as they aimed at the oncoming human fleet. But the humans were faster. Their ships swerved in impossible angles, dodging the blasts with an agility that should not have been possible for machines of their size. The Empire's commanders watched in disbelief. Impossible. How are they avoiding our weapons? The humans didn't fight like anyone else. They didn't follow the rigid formations that most civilizations adhered to, nor did they engage in direct, predictable confrontations. Their tactics were fluid, adaptable, chaotic almost. As the first barrage of fire narrowly missed, Captain Stone ordered a counterattack. Her ships scattered in every direction, unleashing missiles and drones in a near-perfect synchronization that overwhelmed the Empire's automated defenses. A few of the Draken vessels tried to retaliate, but it was already too late. Human firepower surged through the space between the ships, and within minutes, the first Draken warship was destroyed, torn apart by a barrage of concentrated plasma fire. "Captain, the Draken ships are falling back," reported her tactical officer, his voice barely audible over the noise of the battlefield. "They're not fighting in any traditional formation." Stone's eyes remained fixed on the screen, her expression unchanging. "Don't let them regroup. Engage full thrust. We finish this now." Human strategy was simple: overwhelm the enemy with unpredictability and precision. No one had expected such an approach from a species still learning how to navigate the stars. The Draken Empire had been complacent, arrogant, thinking themselves untouchable. Now they were paying the price. One by one, the Draken ships fell. The humans didn't hesitate, didn't waste time on unnecessary bravado. They struck fast and clean, cutting through the Empire's forces with a brutal efficiency. Their warships, though smaller, were faster and more agile, weaving in and out of fire, devastating their larger enemies. As the final Draken ship turned to flee, a message came across Stone's communication channel. It was a desperate plea from the surviving Empire commander. "Please stop. We surrender." "We did not." Stone's finger hovered over the button to cut the transmission. She didn't have time for negotiations, not now. Her orders were clear: complete the mission. With a calm gesture, she sealed the fate of the last Draken ship. As it exploded in a brilliant flash of light, the message was clear to the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and they were not the weaklings others had assumed them to be. As the smoke cleared and the last remnants of the Draken fleet drifted into the abyss, Stone stood, her gaze focused on the vastness of space before her. Her victory was not just a battle won. It was a message sent to every empire, every counselor, every species that had ever dismissed humanity. Earth's soldiers were no longer the underdogs. "They'll remember this," she said quietly to her crew. "This is just the beginning." The void ahead was silent, but the message was already spreading. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Not anymore. The flagship of the Draken Empire, Vraxar's Fury, was supposed to be invincible, a colossal behemoth of advanced technology and overwhelming firepower. The pride of the Empire, It had crushed fleets far larger and more formidable than any humanity could muster. Yet, as the ship's massive guns powered up for another salvo against the advancing human fleet, something was wrong. The crew felt it, a sickening, creeping sensation that something was about to go terribly wrong. Captain Vraxer stood on the bridge, watching the view screen as the human ships advanced. He had dismissed them as an irritant, but his previous encounter with their forces had left him wary. Still, no one could have predicted the chaos that followed. "Ready the shields," Vraxer barked, though his voice betrayed a hint of unease. "And launch the interceptors. I want those ships burned out of the sky." But even as his orders rang out, the human fleet's response was already in motion. The humans had learned quickly, too quickly, how to fight against superior firepower. They weren't following traditional military protocols. They weren't engaging in direct confrontations or predictable formations. They were, in a word, chaotic. And in chaos, they thrived. Vraxer's eyes widened as human warships broke away from their formation, scattering in all directions, their movements erratic but deadly. His fleet was designed for linear, methodical destruction, and yet this unpredictability left them vulnerable. "Targeting systems locked," his weapons officer shouted, firing a burst of energy towards one of the human ships. But the human ship evaded it easily. A surge of light and energy erupted from the Vraxer's fury, but the human vessel swerved with an agility that no other ship in the galaxy could match, sliding through the line of fire as if guided by instinct rather than calculations. Before Vraxer could process the situation, another ship dropped from the darkness of space, moving at speeds no one had anticipated. It flanked Vraxer's fury, launching a volley of missiles that pierced the ship's heavily reinforced armor like paper. A brilliant flash of light, followed by an explosion, filled the bridge's view. "Shields down. Hull breach on the starboard side," the tactical officer screamed, the warning cutting through the chaos. Vraxer gripped the armrest of his command chair, staring in disbelief as his flagship, the mightiest ship the Draken Empire had ever produced, was torn apart by a single human vessel. The loss of the Vraxer's fury was not just a defeat, it was a humiliation. "Activate the emergency protocols," Vraxer ordered, his voice low and strained, but the damage was irreversible. Within moments, the chaos on the bridge intensified. His officers scrambled to repair what they could, but the ship was falling apart faster than they could respond. Another missile strike rocked the ship, sending debris flying through the command deck. Vraxer's vision blurred, his body thrown against the console as the ship began to break apart. The human fleet, relentless and precise, had found their mark, and they were not letting up. In the midst of the destruction, Vraxer finally understood. The humans had not just fought with power or weapons, they fought with something far more dangerous, an unrelenting will to win, no matter the cost. They had turned the tables on the Draken Empire with ease, exploiting every vulnerability they had. As the flagship systems powered down one by one, and the lights on the bridge flickered, Vraxer's mind raced. The humans were far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. "Send a message to the fleet," Vraxer rasped, his voice trembling. "Tell them to retreat. Now." But it was too late. The Vraxer's fury was done. It was only a matter of time before the remnants of the Draken fleet were obliterated as well. The last thing Vraxer saw before the bridge was consumed by flames was the face of his enemy, Captain Sarah Stone, her expression cold and unwavering, watching his ship burn. As the flagship of the Draken Empire fell, one thing became clear. Humanity had not only arrived, they had arrived with a vengeance. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Draken Empire had been forced to lick its wounds, but there was no time for healing. The reality was undeniable. Humanity's military prowess had changed the game. But what had truly left the galaxy reeling wasn't just the scale of the humans' attacks. It was their strategy. As the surviving Draken commanders scrambled to regroup and reorganize, they failed to understand the most dangerous aspect of Earth's forces. They didn't just fight, they adapted. And this adaptability was the key to their success. In the heart of Earth's command center, Captain Sarah Stone stood in front of a vast holographic battlefield, her fingers dancing across the air as she issued commands. A new offensive was already underway. No one had expected this. An alien race on the verge of extinction, fighting like they had nothing to lose. But humanity, she knew, was always at its best when pushed to the edge. "Deploy the next wave," Stone ordered coldly, her gaze fixed on the war map that spread out before her. "We're not here for negotiation. We're here to win." Her officers moved swiftly, an efficient machine of war. The ships, though fewer in number than the enemies, were already shifting, already taking positions that made no sense to anyone unfamiliar with human tactics. They were unpredictable, even to their own commanders, never sticking to one approach long enough to be countered. In a secure room below the command deck, Lieutenant Alex Reyes studied a newly intercepted communication from the Draken fleet. He frowned at the cryptic transmissions, a mix of confusion and anger from the Draken leadership. "Captain, they're panicking," Reyes reported. "They're trying to regroup, but they can't figure out our next move. They're not used to this chaos." Stone's lips curled into a thin smile. Chaos. It was exactly what they needed. While the Draken Empire's fleet relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers, humanity fought with an entirely different mindset. Earth's soldiers had been forged in war, trained to think outside the box, to respond to the battlefield with instinct, not rigid strategies. "They'll make mistakes," Stone said. "And when they do, we'll be ready." Human tactics were anything but conventional. They didn't rely solely on superior firepower, nor did they trust in static defenses. The key to their success lay in guerrilla warfare, hit-and-run tactics, psychological manipulation, and a complete refusal to be predictable. Stone's strategy was as simple as it was brutal. Wear down the enemy until they have no choice but to surrender or die. The Draken Empire had underestimated humanity's ability to fight wars on multiple fronts, using everything from elite soldiers in covert operations to orbital bombardments that left the enemy scrambling to recover. The Empire's mistake was not in dismissing Earth's military might. It was in believing that their own strength was unmatched. The Draken had faced powerful civilizations before, but never one that fought with such a relentless, creative fury. Meanwhile, back in the heart of the Draken fleet, Emperor Vaxer paced his private chamber, his frustration growing with each failed communication. The humans' refusal to fight by any conventional rules had thrown his forces into disarray. For the first time in his reign, the Empire was on the verge of losing to an inferior force. He had underestimated Earth's ability to adapt, and now his empire was paying the price. "How are the reinforcements coming?" Vaxer demanded, his voice strained. "Not well, my lord," one of his officers replied nervously. "The human fleet keeps cutting off our supply lines. They're faster than anything we've ever encountered." The Emperor's frustration boiled over. "We must counterattack now. We can't allow them to break us down any further." But Vaxer was missing the point. The real danger wasn't the humans' firepower. It was their unrelenting will. Each battle wasn't just a fight for victory. It was a test of endurance, of patience. And Earth's soldiers had an endless supply of both. On Earth, the strategy continued to unfold. "We've got them," Stone muttered to herself, watching as the human fleet executed the next phase of their plan. "Keep pushing them back until they have no room to breathe. Then we go for the kill." The Draken were used to fighting battles of attrition, but they hadn't fought against a species that considered attrition its own battlefield. The humans were not trying to destroy their enemy in a single overwhelming strike. They were breaking the Draken spirit bit by bit, forcing them to question their own superiority with every unexpected move. The next phase of the operation was already in motion, an infiltration mission into the heart of Draken-controlled space. Under the cover of darkness, a small elite team of human soldiers had infiltrated the Draken's outer defense perimeter, leaving behind nothing but confusion and misdirection. Every time the Draken thought they had the upper hand, humanity's soldiers did something that left them questioning everything they knew about warfare. It was as if Earth's soldiers had come from a world where survival depended on unpredictable force. "Ready the final assault," Stone commanded, her voice unwavering. The Draken Empire's fate was sealed, and all that remained was to deliver the finishing blow. "Captain," Reyes spoke up, "are we sure we want to push them this far? They're on the brink." Stone's eyes hardened. "They pushed us first. Now it's our turn." Humanity's strategy was simple: *adapt, evolve, and overcome star. The galaxy would learn that Earth's soldiers didn't just fight to win, they fought to survive. And, in that survival, they would reign supreme. The Draken Empire was crumbling. Emperor Vaxer watched in disbelief as the once mighty war fleet, the backbone of his empire, was reduced to fragments in the cold void of space. It had taken centuries to build, yet only days to dismantle. The humans, relentless in their attacks, had torn through their defenses with the precision of predators and the fury of a storm. The remnants of the fleet that had once been a symbol of Draken dominance now retreated in disarray, helpless against an enemy they had underestimated. "Report," Vaxer demanded, his voice tight with a mixture of rage and desperation. His war room was silent, save for the low hum of the emergency systems. His officers stood, nervously shifting their weight as they processed the grim data streaming across their consoles. "2/3 of the fleet is gone, my lord," the tactical officer reported, his voice barely above a whisper. "The remaining ships are scattered, and their morale is shattered. The human fleet continues to advance on all fronts. Our forces are outmatched." Vaxer slammed his fist on the table, causing the room to shake. "This cannot be happening. We are the Draken Empire. We do not fall to mere humans." But the facts were undeniable. The humans had taken the fight to their doorstep with a relentless strategy that had left the Draken no room to maneuver. Every attempt to rally had been countered with swift, brutal force. They had made the mistake of underestimating humanity, and now they were paying for it. Outside, the Draken homeworld sky was filled with the grim remnants of the battle. Explosions erupted in the distance as the last of the fleet's defenses crumbled. Human warships moved like phantoms, picking off targets one by one. They were closing in. The capital was next. On the bridge of the human flagship, Captain Sarah Stone stood tall, her eyes fixed on the live feed of the Draken Empire's final defense. The time had come to end it all. With the fleet in disarray, their defenses weak, it was a matter of pressing the advantage. "Captain, the Draken command ship is in our sights," her first officer said, his voice steady but laced with tension. "We can strike now. It's over." Stone's gaze never wavered. The destruction of the Draken fleet was almost complete. But she had learned long ago that war was never truly won until the enemy surrendered or was destroyed. There was no middle ground. "Prepare the final assault," she ordered. As the human fleet readied for the strike that would wipe the Draken Empire from the stars, Vaxer's desperation reached a breaking point. The Emperor's once proud demeanor had cracked. The inevitable end of his reign had arrived, and he was helpless to stop it. In his private chambers, he gathered the remaining high-ranking generals, his face twisted with fear. "What are we to do now? We've lost everything. The humans have shown no mercy. Our entire fleet is disintegrating before our eyes. Do we not have a countermeasure, a last hope?" One of his generals, a seasoned veteran, stepped forward. "My lord, we've attempted everything. Our weapons are no match for theirs. Our strategy was based on overpowering them, but they fight with a ferocity we didn't anticipate. They are not like any enemy we have ever encountered." Vaxer's fist clenched in fury. He had never known such helplessness. The galaxy had trembled before the Draken Empire for millennia. And now, humanity was taking it all away. "Then we must negotiate. We must surrender," the general suggested, though his voice was strained. "It is the only way to save what remains of the Empire." Vaxer shook his head violently. "No, I will not bow to them. We die with dignity, not with submission." As the humans moved in for the final blow, Vaxer stood at the precipice of defeat, his mind racing for any other option. But there was none. The humans had proven too formidable, their tactics too unpredictable, their will to survive unshakable. The Draken Empire was no match for the sheer determination of Earth's soldiers. Back in space, Captain Stone watched as the final assault on the Draken capital began. The human fleet moved with deadly efficiency, each ship aligning with precise synchronization as they prepared to decimate the heart of the Draken Empire. "Do it," Stone said softly. "End it." A wave of missiles launched from the human fleet, the skies above the Draken capital turning into a storm of destruction. Explosions tore through the planet's defenses, sending shock waves that could be felt across the entire system. It was the final act in a war that had begun with doubt and ridicule, but was now ending with the absolute certainty of victory. As the last of the Draken defenses fell, Stone's voice rang through the bridge, steady and resolute. The Draken Empire is no more. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity had claimed its place at the top. The Draken Empire had fallen, not because they were defeated in battle, but because they failed to understand the true strength of the human spirit. The Draken Empire was no more. The ashes of its once proud capital floated in space, a grim reminder of what had been, and what humanity had taken. In the aftermath of the destruction, the galaxy was left to face the undeniable truth. Earth's soldiers were not only survivors, they were conquerors. The remnants of the Draken leadership had been captured or slain, and now, as the human fleet circled the remnants of their former enemies, the galaxy's attention turned toward the future. For the first time, the Galactic Council was forced to recognize Earth as a force to be reckoned with. Inside the council chambers, the atmosphere was tense, a stark contrast to the usual air of superiority that had defined the galactic elite for millennia. Counselors from across the galaxy gathered to hear what Earth's representatives had to say. No one had expected this outcome, and now they were faced with the undeniable reality that humanity had taken its place at the table of power. Captain Sarah Stone entered the chamber, flanked by a small group of diplomats. The weight of the moment was heavy on her shoulders, but she did not show it. Her eyes were steady, her posture unwavering, as if she had always known this moment was coming. "Welcome, Captain Stone," one of the senior counselors, a tall, insectoid species with a commanding presence, said. "You have shattered the Draken Empire. Now, the galaxy waits for your terms." Stone took her seat at the head of the table, her gaze sweeping across the assembled leaders. There was no need for grand speeches, no empty pleasantries. The humans had earned their place here with every battle fought and every victory won. "You know why we're here," she said, her voice calm but firm. "The Draken Empire is finished. What remains is to determine how the galaxy will respond to this new reality." The counselors exchanged uneasy glances. They had been accustomed to the old order, where they ruled with impunity, and the thought of a new power rising so swiftly was unsettling. "Do you seek domination?" the insectoid counselor asked. "Are you here to rule over the galaxy, as the Draken once did?" Stone's expression remained unchanged. "We do not seek domination," she replied, her voice cutting through the room. "What we seek is peace, real peace. A galaxy that is not ruled by fear, but by understanding. Earth is not interested in becoming a tyrant, but we will not allow anyone to threaten us again. We will not allow any species to think they can disregard our existence." The counselors were silent. There was no denying the strength behind her words. The Draken had tried to subjugate Earth, and they had failed. No one in the galaxy could afford to ignore humanity any longer. "And what are the other races?" another counselor, a reptilian leader from a distant system, asked. "Will you force them into submission?" Stone leaned forward, her eyes cold. "We will not force anyone into submission, but we will ensure that those who would seek to harm others are held accountable. We will establish a new order, one based on mutual respect and security. Those who wish to join us will have the opportunity. Those who do not will be left behind." The message was clear. Humanity had come to this galaxy as equals, not as conquerors. But they had no tolerance for those who would seek to disrupt the fragile peace that had been built. "Will Earth continue to fight?" one of the counselors asked, her voice trembling slightly. "We fight when we must," Stone answered, "but we would rather find common ground." The galaxy does not have to live in fear, but it will not be allowed to forget what happens when it underestimates humanity. The counselors exchanged uneasy glances, each aware of the weight of Stone's words. The age of complacency had ended. Earth had proven that the old powers could be toppled, and no one, no empire, no council, no species, was safe from the rise of a new order. As the meeting drew to a close, Stone stood, her expression resolute. Humanity will lead not through dominance, but through strength and wisdom. The galaxy will adapt, or it will be left behind. And we will be watching. As she turned to leave, the chamber fell into an uncomfortable silence. The Galactic Council had once been the ultimate authority in the galaxy, but now they knew the truth. The universe had changed. Humanity had arrived, and they were not going anywhere. The age of Earth had begun.